Back here on Ultimate Politics UP News. I'm Wade Narsh, your host here at Mile High Sports Radio. As always, you can check us out at www.ultimatepolitics.net. My guest again is Doug Vilsack, and we're talking about a host of issues. Doug, when we just left off, we were talking about the environmental issues with Ecuador, and basically Chevron has left Ecuador's landscape pretty much in ruins. And so you saw firsthand the suffering, the families that are living basically with oil toxicity and oil byproducts infecting their lives, causing cancer and all kinds of disease. Who was the person that you got hooked up with there? I believe you said Pablo.
Well, Pablo Fajardo is the lead Ecuadorian lawyer in the case. And we started working with him a little bit. He's an incredible person. It's really the kind of thing that could be made into a movie. He was born on the western side of Ecuador near the ocean, but moved down to the Amazon when he was young and kind of grew up with this incredible pollution caused by the oil company and the horrible rates of crime. I mean, when you start drilling for oil in some areas, you get all sorts of folks that aren't the greatest for society in the area. So, I mean, the murder rates were just incredibly high. There's this thing called black rain that happens when you drill for oil and you flare the gas that comes from the deposits underground, and it basically just throws a bunch of ash up in the clouds. So just a horrible, horrible place to grow up. He persevered, ended up getting his high school education, which is very rare down there, and starting a human rights organization after being thrown off his job for trying to encourage better labor practices. And this is in the middle of nowhere, folks. I mean, this guy, nobody does this in this area.
So there's a lot of intimidation from workers.
Yeah, I mean, he's received threats all his life. So he kind of went on and decided, I think he first got a degree in computer science somehow down there in the middle of the Amazon, and then he decided he wanted to become a lawyer, so he started studying to be a lawyer. And I guess in the early 2000s, this case was actually being sent down to Ecuador after spending 10 years bogged down in U.S. courts. And he worked on it for a little while, and then the lead Ecuadorian lawyer quit. And so this guy, a year out of law school, was signed up to be the lead Ecuadorian lawyer in this case. And this is a big case. The damage estimates right now are about $6 billion. So, I mean, this is like the biggest environmental case in the world. I mean, this would be the first time that a big oil company like this would be held responsible for environmental damage in another country. So
now, the important thing for the folks out in the audience, I want you to talk about the news services in the United States covering this.
Yeah.
Particularly our good buddies at CNN.
So Pablo Fajardo, who is the lawyer down there, incredible guy, he got a CNN Heroes Award this year, which is an award, basically a humanitarian award given to folks who really show that they're doing good for the world. So he got an award. He was actually nominated, one of 7,000 that got kind of whittled down by CNN to the 3 people in his category, which was fighting for justice. And so he ended up being selected by a blue ribbon panel of folks, including Lance Armstrong and some other pretty well-known folks in the world. And he was selected as the winner for the Fighting for Justice category. And what that entailed was he got to go to New York and get an award and all sorts of stuff. And also his information about his cause was put up on the internet.
On CNN's website.
On CNN's website. And so it was put up there, and then a couple days after it got put up, this information about the website and about everything going on, it disappeared. So we kind of got a hold of CNN and tried to figure out what was going on, and it turned out that Chevron had just kind of kicked off this big advertising campaign. Spent millions of dollars trying to talk about how they were, pushing, environmentally friendly and pushing sustainable technology, and really kind of one of the more environmental oil companies. And it turned out that they had talked to CNN and got them to pull off the information about the case, which CNN had awarded this guy. It said he was fighting for justice, and that's why he got the award. And
so they went back. It's not like they vowed just to the advertisers about a story, but a story that they made.
Yeah. Well,
for an award they gave out.
Right. And then the amazing thing was, I was down in Ecuador at the time, and so Chevron put out a press release down there that said Pablo, this guy, had defrauded CNN and tricked them into giving him this award. Lance Armstrong voted for him for this award. How would this guy who lives down in the Amazon rainforest somehow trick Lance Armstrong into thinking that, Chevron has done these terrible things down in the Amazon. I mean, it's the facts, man. I mean, there are pools of oil down there.
So, they do a PR campaign. First, they scrub the story up here, and then they do a PR campaign in Ecuador. And
Yeah.
of course, if you're a person living in a country where there's not as many good educational resources, and you've got some company spending $1 million or more defrauding this person, and you've not heard about him.
Right.
I mean, heck, we haven't heard about him in the States. It's unfair.
One of the most amazing things is kind of that divide between the resources Chevron has and the resources these folks have that are fighting against them. And I mean, it's kind of a David and Goliath story, but it almost works to our advantage sometimes, because Chevron's sitting up there in California, can't believe that this guy who's been a lawyer for 1 year could possibly beat them, and so they underestimate him at every step. And it's kind of it's kind of racism, really. I mean, just because you're looking at this guy who doesn't have quite as much education and who hasn't grown up, with all of the great things that these lawyers who are Harvard educated got, they think they can beat him, and they're not, which is I think it shows kind of the human spirit and how you can triumph over these big folks who think they can bully you around. One of the most important things to do is just to think about these people in Ecuador, as your neighbor. You meet these people, and they're just like anybody else. They're struggling to get by. They're trying to make ends meet, and it's just like anybody else in the world. They're not some kind of far off person that you could never imagine. These are just real people who are trying to make a living, farm, and survive, and they're being harmed by the stuff we put in our cars. So we need to think about that. You can find all sorts of information about this case. There was a great article in Vanity Fair called Jungle Law, and if you just Google Jungle Law, it'll pop up. And their website is www.texacotoxico.org. And there's an English version and Spanish version, so you have to click on the English version.
Give it to us one more time.
www.texacotoxico.org, and there's also www.chevrontoxico.com, and both of those will pretty much give you the same information.
Hey, Doug, I want to really thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
And warm wishes to your family, to former Governor Tom Vilsack, and whatever he's venturing off to do these days.
Who knows?
And good luck to you with your legal career. I hope that you'll be one of the lawyers that will help us remedy these situations in the future.
Yep.
And once again, this has been we're on Mile High Sports Radio. This is Ultimate Politics UP News. I'm your host, Wade Norris, and you can email me at ultimatepolitics@hotmail.com or Wade@ultimatepolitics.net, and we'll see you next time.